Hey everybody, Mando here. Just going to be going over another build for a different class, another boss damage build. This one's going to be for you hunter mains out there. Again, this is going to be for damaging a boss up close and personal. So let's get into it. So here we are on my hunter, and the armor sets, I don't really have anything that's going to be helping with giving any of my abilities back any faster or anything like that. This is just the Pharaoh Potent armor set. It's going to help with survivability and keeping me alive. Now, the exotic of choice for my armor is Fortune's Favor. So the way that this exotic works is that you essentially have an overshield, and while you have an overshield, your weapons are doing increased damage. The increase in damage depends on the type of weapon that you are using. For heat weapons, it is 20%, and then for every other weapon, it is 15%. So if you happen to lose your overshield, but you are at full health, if you get a final blow, it will start to generate your overshield. But we don't really have to worry about that too much during damage, and we'll get to that in a second. So then for my helmet, I don't really have anything there for increasing my super, because my super is already at 100, and we're not going to be, the super that we're going to be using isn't exactly a damage super, so we just need it to 100 to make sure that we can get it back as fast as possible. Nothing on my gauntlets. Chest piece is just for survivability here. And then on my boots, I also have 2 solar surges as well to make sure that I get even more damage with my axe as I'm doing damage and picking up orbs. And then class item, I do have time dilation on, as well as powerful attraction. That way, if for some reason I get knocked back but have my class ability available, I can use my class ability and be able to pick up the orbs and get my overshield back if I need to, and things like that. And then I also have a class font just to make sure that my class ability stat is up as high as I can get it, which it's at 72 right now. So with the font there, it's going to increase it by 20, bumping it up to 92. Now for the abilities on the build, for the super, I have Tether, so I'm going to be debuffing targets and doing even more damage with my weapons and abilities. For the melee, you can kind of use whatever you want. I like Threaded Spike just because it bounces between enemies. It gives me good amount of darkness energy for my transcendence bar, so that's why I like using Threaded Spike. I also enjoy using grapple as well, just because it really gives me a lot of dark energy for my transcendence bar. Plus it's just good for if you happen to fall off a map or something like that, you have a way to bring yourself back up if you need to. Plus it's good for maneuverability as well, so if you want to switch it out, you can do that, no problem there. For aspects, I have Ascension, just because it's good for jolting targets and giving me Amplified, which will give me some damage resist. And then I also have Stylus Executioner for going invisible and coming out and weakening targets occasionally, and just giving me survivability if I need to reposition and whatnot. Then for fragments, I have Faceted Protection, just because most of the time you're surrounded by combatants, so this will give you more resistance to damage. And then Faceted Hope, because we have an overshield pretty much all the time because of our boots, we have an elemental buff, which means our class ability is going to come back faster. And then Facet of Purpose. So this is what makes sure that you don't lose that overshield during damage. So as you can see here, picking up an Orb of Power, since we have Void on, we're going to be getting an overshield. So during the DPS, While I'm hitting with the axe, I'm going to be creating orbs because of attrition orbs, and that's going to make sure that I keep that overshield the entire time. And then Facet of Blessing, you can switch this out if you want to. If I had to make a recommendation, it would probably be Facet of Dawn, just because it gives you Radiant. However, the Radiant for Prismatic isn't all that long. It's only like 5 seconds. So you constantly have to come out of using the axe and throw the Threaded Spike or whatever your melee is to proc Radiant again, which I don't like having to go in and out of the axe. So that's why I'm not using it. Plus, this is kind of something that I can throw out with this fragment. I can throw out my melee, and if I get a kill on a target, not only am I going to go invisible because Threaded Spike debuffs the target, so I'm going to go invisible from Stylus Executioner, and it's going to help with my health regeneration to get me back to full health. So that's kind of why I like running Faceted Blessing with this. So, and then the damage weapon of choice is, again, Wolfsbane with Attrition Orbs. It's not any different than the way that I have it set up for the other 2 builds that I've showed on the channel. So, there you go. All right, let's head on in to the firing range. We're going to switch this to normal. And as you can see here, there is a surge going on right now this week. We're going to switch this off just so no numbers are skewed or anything like that. I don't think that the axe classifies as a text mechanical weapon, but knowing my luck, something will be going weird on with it. So I will see you guys in the shooting range. All right, so here we are in the shooting range. I got Caro out here. I have rallied and got my ammo back. Nano assault bar is ready to go. So I just want to go over something real quick, or just show something with my artifact. You're going to want to make sure that you have these 3 perks selected, just because they will allow you to weaken targets while you have an overshield, and it's also going to be able to give you Devour as you're killing weakened targets. All right. I'm also going to do the same 30-second timer for doing damage, and I'm going to have Caro aggro me and actually do damage to me, just so I can show me getting my overshield back during damage. All right, let's go over here and grab orbs. Three, two, one. And there you go. 66k. Not bad. Now, you may be saying, well, this isn't as good as the Titan or the Warlock build. That may be so, but this is supposed to be a build that gives you reliable damage and is also going to keep you alive if you're trying to do some endgame content and you're trying to do it solo, or you're just trying to play it safe. With the Attrition Orbs from Wolfsbane, this is going to be giving you Overshield the entire time, and it's going to keep you alive. You're also going to be healing if you have Recuperation on. So you're going to be doing good damage, and you're also going to be staying alive. And like I say to the folks in my clan, if you're dead during a damage phase, you're not doing any damage. So it is better that you stay alive and that you continue to be able to do damage, because you're also losing damage if your teammates are having to run around and revive you. So it's best that you be able to stay alive and be able to do consistent damage. Now, obviously, if you're doing like a day 1 content and whatnot, it's a little bit different, and sometimes you have to take risks. But this is just for regular raids and dungeons, for doing good damage up close and personal to a boss. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.